It was a quiet Saturday morning in the fall of 2011 in a small working-class neighborhood just outside Montgomery, Alabama. The kind of morning where the air smelled like fried bacon and damp grass, and the church bells echoed faintly in the distance. But inside the Carter house, peace had long packed its bags and left. Mary Beth Carter stood in the kitchen, still wearing the oversized t-shirt she had slept in. Her body, weighing nearly 320 pounds, ached under the heaviness of shame more than anything else. The linoleum floor was cold beneath her feet, but not colder than her husband's words had been the night before. "You ain't going to the store looking like that," Dean had barked as he slammed the fridge shut. "Folks will think I ain't got no pride left. You embarrass me." Mary Beth didn't respond. She'd learned over the years that silence was safer. Her hands trembled as she searched through the junk drawer for the car keys, heart racing with the fragile hope of escaping the house, just for a little while. Just long enough to feel like a person again. But the keys were gone. Again. She looked up at Dean, who leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, smirking like he owned the sun. "Looking for these?" he asked, holding the car keys just out of reach. "You want to go flaunt 300 pounds of poor choices around town? You walk. Ain't no way I'm letting you drive my car." Mary Beth's chest tightened, but she still said nothing. Dean had a way of twisting every word she ever dared to speak. He controlled everything: the money, the bills, what groceries she could buy, when she could leave the house. He hadn't always been like this. Back in high school, Dean had been charming. He'd called her beautiful, said her laugh was the best sound in Alabama. But that was before the wait, before the baby they lost, before the sparkle in her eyes was replaced by exhaustion and self-doubt, before she started measuring her worth by what size jeans she could no longer fit into. Dean tossed the keys onto the kitchen counter and walked off laughing. "You've got no value, Mary Beth. You're just baggage now. Hell, even the couch got more shape than you." She stood there frozen. Her throat burned, and her heart thudded so loud it drowned out the ticking clock above the stove. Every inch of her wanted to scream. But screaming wouldn't change anything. It never had. Instead, she cleaned the counter, picked up the keys, only to place them right back where Dean had left them. She knew better than to take them now. He'd notice. He always noticed. That night, as she lay in bed, Dean snored beside her without a care in the world. Mary Beth stared at the ceiling, hands resting over her stomach. That body, her body, had given everything. Love, loyalty, even her health. And in return, all she had was silence, scars, and a house that no longer felt like home. But something inside her cracked open like a whisper in her chest. This can't be it. She wasn't sure if it was a prayer, a threat, or the last piece of her dignity trying to breathe. But for the first time in years, she didn't fall asleep crying. She didn't sleep at all. Because somewhere between midnight and dawn, Mary Beth Carter made a decision. Not for revenge, not for anyone else's approval, but for health, for freedom, for prosperity she hadn't tasted in years. She didn't know how. She didn't know where she'd begin. But she knew one thing. This was the last day she'd ever let a man hide her car keys, or her worth, again. The morning after felt different. The Alabama sun poured through the dusty blinds, casting long golden stripes across the bedroom wall. It was Sunday, October 2nd, and Mary Beth Carter hadn't slept a minute. Her mind was still running, looping every cruel word Dean had thrown at her like a skipping record. But this time, something had shifted. She didn't cry. She didn't shrink. She stared at the ceiling for over an hour, listening to Dean snore like a busted lawnmower beside her. Then, quietly, she slid out of bed, the old wood creaking beneath her feet. She stood up straight, all 320 pounds of her, and walked into the bathroom like she hadn't done in years, with purpose. She turned on the light. The mirror didn't lie. The face staring back was tired. Puffy eyes, hair pulled into a knot that hadn't been brushed in days, a stained shirt that barely fit. But for the first time, Mary Beth didn't look away. She stared. "All right," she whispered to herself, voice shaking. "You're still in there." Her heart ached, but something else stirred too. A whisper of self-worth, buried deep under years of shame. She didn't have money, she didn't have a support system, and she sure didn't have a husband who respected her. But she had this moment, and that would be enough for now. She showered, for real, took her time, scrubbed until her skin felt awake again. Then she put on her jeans, the stretchy kind that still fit, and pulled her hair into a clean ponytail. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a start. Dean didn't even notice. He sat in his recliner watching football, a half-empty beer already sweating on the side table. "Ain't church today?" he mumbled, without looking up. Mary Beth didn't answer. She walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge, and took a long, hard look. Leftover fried chicken, half a tray of cornbread, sweet tea. All of it comfort food. All of it poison in disguise. All of it wrapped in the same trap she'd been stuck in since high school. She reached for the trash can. Every bite, every sugary drink, every leftover. She tossed it. Dean looked up just in time to see the last chicken leg hit the garbage. "What in the hell are you doing?" he barked. "Cleaning," she said, plain and steady. "For me." Dean blinked. "With whose money, Mary Beth? That's good food." She didn't flinch. "Then you can take your money and buy more. I won't eat it." He stood now. "You better watch your tone." She turned to him, calm but firm. "You better watch your values, Dean, 'cause they stink worse than that fridge." He stared at her like she'd grown horns. She didn't wait for more. That afternoon, while he napped on the recliner like always, Mary Beth pulled out a notebook from the junk drawer. She flipped to a blank page and wrote, slowly, in neat block letters. Day 1. 320 pounds goal. Health, freedom, prosperity daily worth, not measured by him. Then, she added, reclaim my voice, reclaim my wealth. It wasn't about becoming skinny. It was about becoming seen again. It was about the health she'd ignored, the values she'd forgotten, the prosperity she once believed only belonged to other people. Thin people, pretty people, happy people. But not anymore. Mary Beth dug out her old laptop, the one she hadn't touched in over a year, and started searching. Free weight loss help, walk-at-home workouts, how to eat healthy on a tight budget. One tab led to another. A video by a woman who used to be 400 pounds. A blog post about food addiction. A community forum where strangers cheered for every pound lost and every small win earned. Mary Beth read it all. That night, she packed up the rest of Dean's beer cans, dumped them in the trash, and sat outside on the porch under the October sky. It was quiet. Cool breeze. Crickets chirping. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. And for the first time in years, she let herself believe. Maybe, she thought. Just maybe. I don't need his keys. It was Monday, October 3rd, just past 7 in the morning. The Alabama sky was still painted with soft pink streaks, and the dew hadn't yet dried from the grass. Mary Beth Carter stood on the front porch in a pair of old sneakers and a gray hoodie that stretched tight across her stomach. Her heart thudded in her chest, not from exertion, but fear. She hadn't walked her street in over a year. What if the neighbors stared? What if someone from church saw her? What if she couldn't make it past the first mailbox without feeling like her lungs were on fire? But then she remembered the night before. The silence. The stars. That voice inside her saying, "You don't need his keys." So she stepped off the porch. One step, then another. By the time she reached the second stop sign down the road, sweat was already forming at the base of her neck. Her breathing was shallow, her knees ached, but she was moving. And for now, that was enough. She passed a house with a "for sale" sign in the yard. She passed another with Halloween decorations already out, plastic skeletons tangled in the bushes. She walked past all the homes she used to deliver cookies to when Dean still wanted to pretend they were the happy couple. Now, no one waved anymore. People barely looked up. But Mary Beth didn't need their attention. She needed her own. By the time she circled back to the house, 35 minutes had passed. She sat on the porch steps, breathing hard but smiling. She didn't know it yet, but that short walk would become her first ritual. One small act of rebellion. One act of self-respect. Inside, Dean was still asleep. His alarm blared at exactly 8 o'clock. Mary Beth didn't rush to bring him coffee like she used to. She stayed on the porch, letting the air cool her face. When he finally stumbled out, shirtless and irritated, he grumbled, "What the hell you doing out here?" "Walkin'," she said. "For my health." He scoffed. "You need a treadmill, not a sidewalk." Mary Beth didn't answer, not because she was scared, but because he didn't deserve her breath. Not anymore. Over the next few days, the routine grew. Each morning she woke at 6:30, laced her shoes, walked the same loop, then stretched on the porch. By the end of the week, she was down 3 pounds. She weighed herself on the rusty bathroom scale, wrote the number down in her notebook, 317 pounds, then circled it. Progress. She started swapping white bread for wheat, soda for water, and sugar-filled cereal for oatmeal. Small things. Things she didn't need permission for. Dean didn't notice. Or maybe he didn't care. Either way, Mary Beth kept going. One afternoon, while at the grocery store, finally allowed to drive Dean's car to pick up his smokes, she stood in front of the produce section longer than usual. A woman beside her, probably in her 40s, glanced over and smiled. "You makin' soup?" she asked. Mary Beth blinked. It had been a long time since a stranger spoke to her kindly. "Tryin'," she replied. "Figure it's time I learned how to cook something green." The woman laughed, not cruelly, but warmly. "That's the kind of wealth folks overlook, knowing how to feed yourself right. Good for you." That word, wealth, hit Mary Beth deeper than she expected. Not money, not riches, but self-sufficiency. The kind of prosperity that came from knowing your own worth. Back home, she chopped kale and garlic, letting the smell fill the kitchen. Dean walked in, sniffed the air, and wrinkled his nose. "What's this? Rabbit food?" She stirred the pot. "It's dinner." "You better make me real food," he warned. "I ain't eating that diet crap." Mary Beth didn't flinch. "Then you can make your own." He stared, jaw clenched, like he didn't recognize her. Maybe he didn't. Maybe, slowly, she was becoming someone else entirely. That night, she sat alone at the table, ate every bite, drank her water, wrote in her notebook. Day 5, 315 pounds. I am building a new life, no permission needed. My values, my health, my rules. The porch light flickered overhead. The wind picked up. Somewhere down the road, a wind chime danced. Mary Beth looked out into the dark and whispered, "This is what freedom tastes like." By Saturday, October 8th, Mary Beth Carter had made it a full week. 7 straight days of walking, 7 days without soda, 7 days of eating meals that looked like health instead of punishment. The bathroom scale read 312 pounds. 3 pounds may not sound like much, but to Mary Beth, it felt like she had just cashed her first check of self-respect. Not money in her pocket, but a different kind of wealth. One she hadn't felt in years. The kind you earn with grit, not luck. She stood in front of the mirror again. Same face, same body. But something in her eyes had changed. She looked steadier. Straighter. A little less haunted. Down in the kitchen, Dean grumbled through the cabinets. He'd started noticing the changes. Less fried food, less junk, less Mary Beth waiting on him hand and foot. He slammed a cupboard. "Ain't no chips? What the hell are you even buying with my money?" Mary Beth wiped her hands on a towel. "Groceries that don't clog arteries." Dean turned, pointing a finger at her. "You trying to starve me now?" "I'm feeding us both," she said calmly. "One of us just stopped pretending poison was love." The room went still. He didn't hit her. Dean never hit her. But sometimes the silence he left hanging in the air bruised worse than fists. Still, Mary Beth didn't flinch. She'd spent years studying that silence, afraid of it. Now she used it like armor. By Monday, she joined an online support group. Women from all over the country. Most of them had been through the same thing, emotional abuse wrapped in wedding vows. Some had left. Some were still stuck. But every one of them cheered when Mary Beth posted her first update. "Alabama gal here. 312 pounds. Week 1 done. I'm not invisible anymore." Comments rolled in like confetti. "We see you, sis. Keep going. You're worth the fight. Your story sounds like mine. You're gonna make it." It was the first time Mary Beth felt like she belonged somewhere in years. She wasn't just a wife or a body anymore. She was a story, a rising one. That night, Dean was sitting in his recliner again, flipping through channels. She sat across from him, sipping warm tea with lemon. No sugar. He glanced at her. "You doing all this for someone else?" She looked up. "No." Dean's jaw tightened. "'Cause ain't no man gonna want you anyway. You lose 50 pounds, you still got 200 more to go." Mary Beth didn't blink. "I'm not losing weight for attention. I'm gaining back my values." Dean scoffed. "Don't talk like you're smarter than me." "I don't have to be smarter, Dean. I just have to remember who I was before you forgot." He got quiet after that. Real quiet. The next morning, she added a mile to her walk. Took a different route. Past the old elementary school she once volunteered at. Past the Dollar General. Past the church where she married. Dean in a white dress that barely zipped up. She stopped and stared at that church for a long while. The paint was peeling now. Weeds crawled along the edges, just like her marriage, once sacred, now neglected. Mary Beth whispered to herself, "I made vows, but I didn't vow to disappear." Back home, she made a big salad. Greens, grilled chicken, tomatoes, olive oil, sat down with her notebook. Day 9, 310 pounds. "My body is not broken. My dreams are not dead. Prosperity is a path I walk, one step at a time." In that moment, with the October wind brushing past the windows and her heart steady as a drum, Mary Beth Carter didn't feel like a victim. She felt like a woman rebuilding wealth, in health, in voice, in soul, and it was only the beginning. By Friday, October 14th, the leaves in Montgomery had started turning. Red, gold, burnt orange, like the world itself was shifting with her. Mary Beth Carter stood on her porch, sipping black coffee and listening to the hum of a world she'd almost forgotten she belonged to. She was down to 305 pounds, 15 pounds in less than 2 weeks. But the weight loss wasn't what lit her up that morning. It was the message in her inbox. A woman from the support group had sent it. "Hey Mary Beth, saw your post. My cousin owns a small bakery just outside town. She's hiring part-time help. Interested?" Mary Beth read it 5 times before she replied. She hadn't worked since Dean told her it wasn't worth the gas money. Said no one wanted to see someone her size behind a counter. But she hit yes, and then texted back again. "Actually, I'd love to." Dean was in the garage tinkering with his truck when she told him. "I'm starting work Monday," she said, trying to sound matter-of-fact. He didn't look up. "With what car?" "I'll take the bus." He laughed. "You? Bus stops ain't made for folks carrying 300 pounds of bad decisions." She stared at him. "Then I'll walk," she said. "One way or another, I'll get there." He smirked. "What they paying you, minimum wage? You really think that's gonna buy you prosperity?" She didn't answer. But in her chest, something stood taller than pride. She wasn't chasing money to please Dean. She wasn't working to impress anyone. She was doing it because it reminded her she still had a name, still had value. Monday came fast. Mary Beth woke at 5:30, showered, dressed in her best jeans and a button-up shirt that hadn't seen daylight since before the weight piled on. Her hands trembled as she tied her hair back in a clean braid. She walked 2 miles to that bakery, boots thudding over cracked sidewalks. "Morning," said a woman in an apron, flour on her hands. "You must be Mary Beth. I'm Carla." She offered a handshake, strong and steady. No judgment, no weird glances. By 8 o'clock, Mary Beth was rolling dough, wiping counters, learning to make real Southern biscuits without the shame of being watched. "You're a fast learner," Carla said as she handed her a fresh apron. "Folks round here respect hard work. Doesn't matter the size." Mary Beth swallowed the lump in her throat. When she got home later that day, her legs ached and her lower back throbbed. But for the first time in years, it wasn't the ache of helplessness. It was the ache of purpose. Dean looked up from the couch when she came in. "Don't say nothing," she told him, voice tired but clear. "I don't care what you think about this job. I'm keeping it." He raised an eyebrow. "You even bring home a check?" "First one's next Friday," she said. "And when it hits, I'm buying my own groceries with my money." He scoffed. "Little paycheck ain't gonna change nothing." But she knew different. The bakery didn't just pay her in cash. It paid her in dignity, in routine, in a place to go where she was seen, not sized. By the end of the week, her notebook read, "Day 14, 301 pounds, 1 job, 1 paycheck, 1 small taste of wealth I earned myself. I am not his shadow. I am becoming my own light." That Friday night, she stood in front of the mirror again. The curves were still there, the stretch marks, the tired eyes. But her shoulders? They no longer slumped. By Friday, October 21st, Mary Beth Carter's life was no longer quiet. It was busy, full, real. She had lost 20 pounds since the day she first stepped off that porch. Her notebook now read 300 pounds even, and the red ink she used to mark each milestone bled like pride through every page. Each morning she walked 3 miles before sunrise, worked a 6-hour shift at the bakery, came home with flour on her cheeks and a paycheck in her bag, then cooked herself a meal full of health, not guilt. And Dean? Dean had started noticing. "Where you getting all this energy from?" he asked one night, chewing on leftover biscuits he didn't know she made with almond flour. Mary Beth shrugged. "Values, Dean. Different ones than before." He didn't like that answer. But he didn't argue either. Because deep down, even Dean could see she was changing. Not just shrinking in size, but growing in wealth. Emotional wealth. That kind of prosperity nobody could hand you. You had to fight for it. Bleed for it. Believe in it when no one else did. And Mary Beth believed now. Carla, the bakery owner, had asked her to stay late on Thursdays to help close. "You've got good hands," she said. "Fast, steady, like someone who knows how to rebuild." That compliment hit deeper than she expected. One afternoon, a man came into the shop, maybe mid-40s, dressed like he worked construction, boots, flannel, dust on his collar. He looked around and smiled when he saw Mary Beth behind the counter. "Hey," he said friendly. "You're new?" Mary Beth smiled. "Sort of. I've been here a couple weeks." He nodded. "You from Montgomery?" "Born and raised," she said, wiping flour off her hands. He tilted his head. "You look familiar." She paused. "Name's Mary Beth Carter." He blinked. "Mary Beth Henson? From Jefferson High?" She froze. That was her maiden name. No one had called her that in over a decade. "Yes," she said, slower now. "That's me." He grinned. "I sat 2 rows behind you in English. You used to write poetry in your notebooks." She flushed. "That was a long time ago?" He smiled. "Yeah, well, good to see you. You look different, healthier?" She nodded, heart fluttering in a way that had nothing to do with romance. It was recognition. Someone had seen her, really seen her. Not the weight, not the shame, but the woman behind the size. That night, Mary Beth sat on the porch again. She looked up at the sky, breathed in the cool air, and let her notebook rest on her lap. Day 21, 300 pounds. My name is still mine. My roots are still strong. Rising isn't about erasing the past. It's about owning it. Inside the house, Dean watched his 3rd game of the day. A cold beer in one hand. No words for her when she walked past him. He'd started noticing that, too. The way she didn't beg for conversation anymore. The way her silence wasn't weakness, but distance. Later that night, Mary Beth stood in the doorway of their bedroom. Dean lay on the bed, snoring. She looked around at the space they'd shared for over 12 years. The pictures on the wall. The mismatched lamps. The broken dresser drawer he never fixed. She didn't cry. She didn't pack. She just stood there and whispered to the room, "I ain't closing the door yet, but I ain't scared to." Because the truth was simple now. She didn't need him, not for money, not for prosperity, not for her name, not for her future. She'd already found all of that, in the woman staring back at her every time she looked in the mirror. And soon, she'd find even more. It was the first Sunday of November, 2011. The air in Montgomery had that crisp, southern chill, the kind that made you reach for a hoodie and breathe a little deeper. Leaves danced down the streets, and somewhere in the distance, a church bell rang. Mary Beth Carter had just stepped off her bathroom scale. 298 pounds. She stared at the number, hands shaking, heart pounding. She had broken under 300 pounds for the first time in nearly 9 years. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She whispered, "I'm coming back." It wasn't about the number. It was what it meant. She was proving to herself, day by day, pound by pound, that she was more than what Dean said. More than the body he belittled. More than the silence he forced on her for over a decade. After breakfast, scrambled eggs, avocado, black coffee, she sat on the porch steps and opened her notebook. Day 29, 298 pounds. Every drop of sweat has value. Every pound lost is a piece of freedom returned. This is real prosperity, built by my own 2 hands. Dean stepped outside just as she closed it. "What's got you smiling like that?" he asked, rubbing his belly. "Scale tell you something sweet?" Mary Beth looked at him. His stained t-shirt. The beer belly he never acknowledged. The same man who used to call her a burden every time she asked for gas money. She stood up. "Dean," she said, calm and firm. "We need to talk." He scoffed. "I ain't in the mood for one of your lectures." "I ain't lecturing," she said. I'm setting boundaries." That made him pause. "I've changed," she went on. "I'm healthier, stronger. I've rebuilt everything you tried to tear down." He snorted. "Don't flatter yourself." "I'm not," she said, steady as a storm. "I'm stating facts. I've lost 22 pounds. I've saved my own money. I've worked for my own wealth. And you—" She stepped closer. "You still ain't fixed that dresser drawer. Still sitting on that couch like life owes you something. Still making jokes about my weight when your own values couldn't buy you a cup of coffee." Dean opened his mouth, but nothing came out. She reached for the counter behind her, picked up the car keys. "I'm taking the car today," she said. "I'm driving myself to the store, and I'll be driving myself a lot more from now on." His face twisted. "This my house, Mary Beth, my rules." She smiled. "Then it's time we both start living by our own rules." She walked to the car, keys tight in hand. For the first time in years, she didn't ask, didn't explain, didn't beg. She drove into town with the windows down, her playlist on. Songs she hadn't listened to since college. Music that reminded her who she used to be before shame took the wheel. At the store, she bought what she wanted. Greens, lean protein, herbal tea. She added fresh flowers, too, just because she liked the color. At the register, she paid with her own debit card. Her money. Her choice. On her way back to the car, a woman in the parking lot tapped her shoulder. "Excuse me," the woman said. "You wouldn't happen to be Mary Beth Henson, would you?" Mary Beth blinked. "I am." The woman smiled. "I thought I recognized you. You look happy." Mary Beth nodded. "I am." Later that night, she sat on the porch again. Dean hadn't spoken much since she returned. He looked shaken, like a man watching the ground shift beneath him, but refusing to move his feet. She opened her notebook one more time. Day 30, 298 pounds. He used to hold the keys. Now I do, because real wealth isn't about what you own. It's about what you reclaim. And the best part? She wasn't done yet. The sun had barely crested over the rooftops of Montgomery when Mary Beth Carter rolled her suitcase out to the porch. It was small, just enough for clothes, her notebook, and the little photo frame with her mama's picture tucked safely inside. She wore jeans that hugged her now looser hips, a simple blue blouse, and a soft calm that didn't come from weight loss, but from healing. She weighed 270 pounds, 50 pounds down since October. But what she'd gained, that was harder to measure. Confidence, clarity, control. Dean stood in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes squinting against the morning light. "You really leavin'?" he asked, voice flat. Mary Beth didn't rush. She zipped her bag slowly, then turned to face him. "I ain't leavin'," she said. "I'm returnin'. To myself." Dean scoffed. "You act like you've become somebody." "I have," she said. "And the more I became her, the less I saw you in that life." His jaw clenched. "You gonna run off on your marriage over a few lost pounds and some bakery money?" She shook her head, gentle but sure. "No. I'm walking away from a man who used money like a leash, who treated my health like a joke, who forgot that love comes with values, not insults." He stepped forward. "You think life's just gonna hand you some prize for losing 50 pounds? She looked at him with clear eyes. "Life already handed me what matters. Prosperity, not the kind you stash in a wallet, the kind you carry in your spine, in your choices, in your freedom." Dean went quiet. And that silence, the same silence that once hurt so much, finally meant victory. She walked to the car, the one she now drove whenever she pleased, and opened the door. Before she got in, she turned back one last time. "I ain't bitter, Dean," she said. "You taught me a lot. Mostly about what not to accept. I hope you find yourself one day, but I can't wait around for that no more." He looked at her, broken in a way he couldn't admit. A man who never thought the quiet girl with the stretch marks would find her roar, but she had. She got in the car, turned the key, her key, and pulled out of the driveway. There was no dramatic tear, no goodbye scream, just peace. She drove to Carla's bakery first, walked in, handed her a letter. "I'm not quitting," Mary Beth said, smiling. "I'm expanding. Found a nutrition program in Birmingham. I'm going to take classes in the afternoons. Still work mornings, if that's all right." Carla hugged her tight. "Girl, I'm proud of you. You're building real wealth now." "I am," Mary Beth whispered. She checked into a small one-bedroom apartment that afternoon. Nothing fancy, but it was hers. Walls she could paint, shelves she could fill with whatever she wanted. Books, plants, peace. That night, she sat at her tiny kitchen table, the window open, the hum of crickets and cars outside. She opened her notebook for the last time in that chapter of life. Day 45, 270 pounds. I was never too big. I was just too powerful for the wrong place. Now I own my name, my values, my body, and my life. She put the pen down, closed the book, and whispered to herself, "I didn't lose him. I released him." Then she smiled, a full smile, the kind that comes from health, from surviving, from turning pain into prosperity. And now she was free.